Wanda Keys. Mercy, mercy me. Things ain't what they used to be. The sun was beginning to rise at 5:15 a.m. on Sunday, July 23, 1967. It was going to be a typical hot and humid summer day in Detroit, Michigan. At this hour of the morning, my sister Laverne, my best friend Dana, my cousin Harvey, and I were just getting home from a party at one of our cousins' homes. We were teenagers who had stayed out way past the allowable curfew. In retrospect, I can't imagine what kind of partying we were doing that had us still out at this hour of the morning. I was only 19. My sister Laverne drove her 1963 tan Dodge. We were riding east on Claremont Street. She stopped the car just long enough for Harvey to get out of the car. He lived right on our route home. He stayed with his mother, father, and brothers in a large brick two-family flat that was located right on the corner of Claremont and 14th Streets. He got out, hurled a few insults at us, and Laverne drove off. Laverne proceeded east down Claremont. We noticed the sound of burglar alarms ringing in the distance. Not one burglar alarm, but the sound of many. This was strange because a burglar alarm ringing back then meant somebody had the nerve to break into something and the police would soon be arriving. This has not happened often. As we approached the next stoplight, which was 12th Street, the alarms got louder. We glanced down 12th to see people running and shouting. Alarms were ringing like mad, but there was no police. That was extremely odd. Our teenage curiosity, or absence of good sense, coupled with the fact that we had been drinking beer, got the best of us. Laverne parked the car a safe distance away, and we actually got out of the car and walked a block or two where the action was. We stood on the sidewalk across the street from the action and watched in amazement. Nobody bothered us, and we stayed the hell out of the way, but we wanted to see and know what was happening. Even though what we were witnessing was very strange and even dangerous, we felt no real fear for our personal safety because back then, people would rarely hurt anyone, especially 3 teenage girls, for no reason at all. What we saw were people running in and out of a few stores that had been broken into. The large front plate glass windows, which were next to the entrance to most of the small neighborhood businesses in those days, had been smashed in with bricks. I remember a pawn shop, a furniture store, and a drugstore were being hit as we stood and watched. Some of the doors of the stores, which were only protected by alarms in those days, were kicked in or smashed in. People were helping themselves to whatever they could carry. Across the street from where we were standing, I saw a man come out of a store with a portable TV hoisted on his shoulder. He proceeded to walk down the street with it. I saw a lady going down another street carrying a living room chair. A boy walking behind her was carrying a chair just like the one she had. Why not get a set, I wondered. People were coming out of the liquor store with bottles of booze and cigarettes. People were excited, rushing in and out, grabbing all that they could. It was like a scene from the old sci-fi show, The Twilight Zone. I was waiting to hear Rod Serling's familiar voiceover explaining that what we were seeing was only a scene from the show. But I didn't hear Rod, nor did I hear the crazy theme song from the Twilight Zone. At first, we stayed on the sidelines and observed the melee. I kept wondering why the police had not come. And why did everyone seem so fearless? Where did that man get the nerve to carry a TV down the street that he has obviously stolen? A lady walking down the street with a few pieces of furniture for her living room. Come on now. It was 1967 in Detroit. This sort of stuff did not happen. We asked someone, I don't remember exactly who, what was going on. We were told that a few hours before, the police raided an after-hours joint, a Blind Pig, a few blocks away. We were told that onlookers and residents who witnessed the raid were angry that the police treated the persons who were arrested with extreme cruelty, beating some of the men and throwing the women into the paddy wagon. People were mad and thus were retaliating. Of course, I didn't say anything, but it didn't make sense to me. I couldn't connect what seemed to be two totally different events. What did the raid on the after hours joint have to do with what was going on in front of my face? I did not have the answer right then. Mob mentality is very real. I found this out as we witnessed the crowd grow larger and more brazen. It was getting crazier and crazier. It was a free-for-all. Well, I got the crazies too. As I was watching everybody else load up on free goodies, I wanted to see what I could get. After all, the stores were wide open, so it wasn't really stealing. Dana, Laverne, and I got our nerve up and ran into the corner drugstore. It was full of folks rushing and grabbing merchandise off the shelves. Somebody said, "Y'all going in and get some of this free stuff." It was sheer madness. There was broken glass all over the place, and I had to be careful not to step on the huge chunks of glass. The burglar alarm was ringing. I was scared as I ran in, but once I was in, I didn't know what the heck to do. I grabbed a handful of jars of arid cream deodorant with Perstop. Perstop was an ingredient in the deodorant that its advertisers claimed would stop perspiration in its tracks. My sister grabbed a few fifths of Johnny Walker red liquor. I don't remember what, if anything, Dana grabbed. My adrenaline was flowing, but I started to get afraid, too. Things were out of hand and there was madness in the air. Even as a teenager, I knew we could get in trouble if we got caught up in this mess. We all knew better. Something told all three of us at the same time that we should get the hell out of there. It was fear. We left with our stolen goods and rushed back to the car. Laverne put her foot to the pedal and the pedal to the metal and started towards home. I remember looking back out of the rear window of the car as Laverne drove away from that scene, and I knew I was witnessing something that would be talked about for days. What I saw was a crowd that was growing larger and more aggressive. The absence of fear was the weird thing that set my nerves on edge. Out of the rear window, I saw people carrying food, furniture, clothing, anything they could carry. I saw a man and woman each lugging a couch down the street. Maybe some people went home and came back for more goodies. People were running in and out of the stores and yelling. As we maneuvered our way back to Claremont, which was only 2 blocks away, we found it was eerily quiet outside of that tiny area where we had just left. The ride home was uneventful. It seemed like a typically slow Sunday morning. The rest of the city was just waking up, oblivious to what was happening on 12th Street. No police cars were rushing past us to the scene we had just left. Nothing. I would liken our ride home to being in an active war zone and then walking a few blocks away and finding peace and quiet. It did indeed seem like a scene from the Twilight Zone. I was glad to be on our way home. The ride home took about 10 minutes. By the time we made it, we were excited and frightened about the chaos that we had just witnessed. My mother was awake and she was shocked to find out her girls had been out all night long. But as we started telling her what we'd seen, minus our part in it, she told us she had heard about some trouble at an after-hours joint on the radio. She explained why the crowd outside of the place was so angry. Black people were tired of being treated so brutally by the police all the time. She told us she was glad we had sense enough to come on home. So, it was more to it than just a crowd of angry people. It went much deeper than that. I still couldn't find a correlation. I was tired and went to bed around 6:30 a.m. When I awoke a few hours later, I finally began to understand the connection between the after-hours joint and the chaos on 12th Street. By that Sunday evening, the mayhem on 12th Street had made the news on both TV and radio. The black radio stations were talking about the rioting and looting. They were warning people to stop and go home, and if you were already home, to stay there. People were being warned to stay away from the area. Neighbors were talking. When we told our neighborhood friends what we had witnessed and took part in that very morning, they thought we were crazy. Relatives were calling to check on each other. We were told to stay close to home, and we did. The police did not try to break up the mayhem. I heard they thought the situation would wear itself down. 3 days later, sections of Detroit were on fire. Clouds of smoke hung in the air. We went to bed with the smell of smoke. The National Guard was called in. I remember 2 National Guardsmen who looked to be no older than me running through our backyard with their rifles positioned on their shoulders, pointing upwards. They were looking for looters, I imagine. They scared the hell out of my mother and us, and they looked as scared as we were. At night, my mother used the water hose to wet down the front of our house in case any embers from the burning buildings on Oakland Avenue just a block away drifted eastward towards our home. The Big Four became a regular sight in our neighborhood. The Big Four were 4 policemen who rode around in a black unmarked police car, each with a long rifle hanging out of each of the front car windows. They wanted us to see those rifles. Nobody wanted the Big Four around, and nobody messed with them. The city was almost at a standstill. It was a very dangerous time. People still went to work if they could. I was afraid for my father. It was good he worked close enough to home that he could walk to work and in the opposite direction of all the trouble. I was afraid for any of my family to leave the house. We were all afraid. Afraid for our young men, afraid for our property. It was a fearful time. Detroit made the national news. It took weeks to get the unrest under control. After the smoke cleared, many of the vibrant businesses that were part of our neighborhood were gone, burned to the ground. It was mostly the white-owned businesses that were destroyed. Our neighborhood, as we had known it, was gone in a matter of a few days. Our houses were still standing, but they were gaping holes in the landscape on Oakland Avenue. We needed and used all of those businesses. At the 5 and dime store, you could buy everything from a sewing needle to a piece of furniture. If you had a little money, you could choose from a lot of merchandise: a bottle of nail polish, a powder sponge, eyebrow pencils, stockings, hand cream, face powder, fragrance, and cashmere bouquet, talcum powder. There were sheets, pillowcases, bed linen, bedspreads, dish towels, pots and pans. Directly across the street from the 5 and dime was a grocery store. Just about everyone in the neighborhood stopped there on a daily basis. Here, some neighbors were even allowed to run a tab until payday. Dana's family had a tab. I remember so many days walking into the store with her to purchase something for their dinner on credit. It was not a big deal. That grocery store was looted and burned. Gone was the shoe shop, and next to that, the dry cleaner. All of these businesses were located on Oakland Avenue between Hague and Alger, just up the street. Because we lived right across the street from the Moore School playground, which extended from Cameron to the alley at Oakland, we had a very clear picture of the melee. Mason's funeral home on the corner of Oakland and Alger was spared. Mr. Mason, the owner, was a black man. On the other corner at Oakland and Hague was Barthwell's drugstore, another black-owned business that was spared. Mr. Barthwell was well known and respected in our community. As children, it was such a treat to go into Barthwell's, as it was called. The store had a very special lunch counter where patrons could sit down and order delicious hamburgers, french fries, fresh malts, hand-dipped ice cream, and orange sherbet. I would give anything to be able to visit a store like Barthwell's today. I look back on that early morning in July of 1967. Things got way out of control over a matter of days. It wasn't a spontaneous event. It was something that was fueled over days. The way I would explain the beginning of the 1967 riot would be that it started off as a small campfire that somebody neglected to put out. Neglected, the campfire grew in a matter of a few days into a huge, uncontrollable forest fires. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I was there. I saw.